Hey, what's up? I'm Guy.
I'm John.
This is our YouTube channel. Subscribe to this channel. Give this video a like.
Yep. Check out our podcast below in the description.
It's all you can ask for out of a Sunday night football game, John. Raiders Chiefs, Sunday night football. Bet you didn't know that. You did. And the Raiders defense is, I don't know. We're waiting to see if they're available. But I'm glad it's a Sunday night game. I hope we don't have to get some weird flex out. Remember the last time the Raiders had a Sunday night game, it ended up being that Bucks game that had to get flexed because we didn't know. Again, the Raiders had a whole COVID issue on their offensive line. But this takes this game to another level, the fact that it's Sunday night.
Can I read you what Paul Gunther just said at his press conference? Pretty interesting quote. I don't know how we can beat these guys with a full lineup and practice, let alone 3/4 of your lineup not here all week. I don't know if Gruden's going to love that quote.
He said, I don't know if – wow.
I don't know how we can beat these guys with a full lineup and practice, let alone 3/4 of your lineup not here all week. Well, you did beat them.
Wait, did Paul Gunther, was he the bus driver in Kansas City?
Might have been. That quote might get him in a little trouble with his head coach. But there is validity. Like if he just said, "Listen, playing the Super Bowl champs, this is not an ideal situation." But I don't know if we could beat these guys when they're practicing. No, Paul, you already did. But to say that we're at a disadvantage, yes, enormously. The Chiefs have, I think, Mitchell Schwartz and another offensive line went on Corona earlier this week too. Now they can get off, same type deal. But still, like
Mecole Hardman too, right? Which isn't necessarily good for the Raiders because guess who might be returning kicks? Punts.
But Hardman is pretty elite too as a returner. Like he's one of the fastest guys. Now Tyreek's a better player. I just, to me, it all gets back to when I think about Sunday Night Football, like the one on Monday Night Football earlier this year, Derek played a really good game against the Saints, especially that second half. Remember, he was just on point, outplayed Drew Brees. Like for as much as it's going to come down to the defense, and it might just in the sense that like if the Chiefs are on, they can score 40. I think the Raiders have proved they can score 35, 40, right? So it's like Derek is just going to he's going to have to almost overcompensate the defense. And for the most part, the offensive unit has been really good the last 3 or 4 weeks. But I don't think what they've been winning with like his 180-yard performances, and it's been fine. Like they've been killing people like that. And or even the Browns game, which I wish I would have bet on you were all over. They completely dominated. They haven't needed him to pass in terms of like the 300, 350-yard games. I don't think they have any chance on God's green earth to win a game with him in the 100s. And I'd even probably say the 200s. Like, to me, this might have to be a potent performance.
Just
because already their defense is going to be at a disadvantage, they're going to score.
It was going to have to be that anyway, probably, right?
Yeah, defense healthy regardless.
I'm with you. I mean, now there was a million ways we can evaluate quarterbacks. This is a matchup of two. You know
he could have had a much bigger game last week. Remember they dropped the balls like it was last week.
And I thought he was better eye test than even the box score showed. Right.
Well, that Waller play probably would have been an extra 60 yards on his 180.
This is a matchup of the second and the fifth rated quarterback in terms of just QB rating. Mahomes is 2, Derek is 5.
Do you even know? Well, people often ask me, do you know what QB rating is? Like I don't put much stock into it. I know people do.
Yeah, I don't put much stock into it either. But I just know that when I looked up quarterback stats, it organized quarterbacks by rating, and I was like, oh, look at that. That's interesting.
Who's won?
Rodgers.
Yeah.
But, I think what's interesting about specifically the quarterback matchup in this game is that Derek and Mahomes have been similar in this way. They have not turned the ball over this year. And Derek has still been explosive while not turning the ball over. Mahomes has been incredibly explosive not turning the ball over. We've talked about it many times. 25 touchdowns and 1 pick.
I saw the PFF guy tweeting like he actually has had turnover-worthy plays.
Yeah, everybody
kind of
has.
Arguing. Yeah, so
everyone's had dropped picks.
Kyler threw one through a guy's hands last week. It happened.
All I know is in the history of the game, we have all these numbers to compare, and usually if you throw 25 touchdowns, you probably had 3 dropped, and if you throw 5 picks, you probably had 3 dropped. I don't know. I just know those numbers and Derek's numbers represent something similar between the two, which is that they have not turned the ball over. Well, now you're going to take it up a notch because we know what he's capable of and we know what you're capable of, but you got to to your point, like if you're Derek, you're just probably going to have to make more of those plays.
You-
And I think he's capable of doing it, but it ratchets up the pressure. The word I love using in football, because it's one play changes everything. It's just your margin for error is just thin if your defense isn't going to be able to ever get a stop.
You remember last year when they played in Kansas City and it was a big game. The Raiders were 6-4 and the Chiefs were 7-3. The Chiefs stayed pretty quiet that week, but after Derek threw a pick six and another bad pick, I remember the Honey Badger. The pick six, I think, was to Breland. And the Honey Badger said after the game, like, yeah, we knew his tendencies. We could get to him. Or he made a comment kind of like way back in the day when he made to Kaepernick. And he wasn't even being, I think he's just very candid about, like, we had a game plan. We knew he likes this X look, and we knew we could take advantage of it. They have had success against Derek turning the ball over. And I think coming into this week with that Kerr, comment or quote of appropriate fear, I do think they are on point. So, like, Derek is going to get their best, right? He beat him earlier. He played well against them earlier. They're already kind of trying to use some bulletin board material just to get extra fired up for these guys, as they should. I mean, it's a divisional game. But if Derek plays well against this team who's coming for him, and they were to win, you could argue it's like his greatest performance in the regular season of his career.
I think that possibility
Sunday night
exists.
football,
Yeah.
who's watching?
Yeah. Now,
If he were to have like a 300-yard game and they were to win, it might be his top moment as a player.
But when you say 300 yards, like you're right, it took 40 points and 347 passing yards to beat them last time. By the way, Mahomes' one interception came in this. Jeff Heath is the one pick that Mahomes has thrown. But it took 40 points to win. I mean, it would have taken 33. The Chiefs it was 40-32. But a 300-yard game, John, like what do you mean? 305 or 347? Because it was 347 last time.
And I think we say, the Chiefs, their second half was terrible, and it still was 40-32. So it just shows you like the level. Now they did get a late touchdown because at one point in time I think it was like 40-25 or something, and then they were 24 and they went for 2. Like the Raiders kind of took over, but it was a part because Derek was shredding them. And if you just go, okay, Derek can shred him again, but let's just assume that they could go blow for blow. Because remember last time in the second half, it was like they were forcing punts. It was like, this is insane, right? Because it was like, oh, game's going to get into the 40s for both teams.
Well, remember
the Chiefs couldn't match them.
The Chiefs scored three straight touchdowns. Then the Raiders, like in the middle of that, scored 3 straight touchdowns. It felt like the game was gonna take 50 points to win the game. You're right. Like the Raiders did play a pretty complete football game that week.
They did. And I think back to the original point of, I don't think it's as bad as Gunther's making it sound to be. God, doom and gloomer. But that you're going to have to expect them to score 35 points. So just the onus and the pressure is all on Derek Gruden in the offense. Now, luckily, the Derek Gruden in the offense, I mean, it's one of the better units in the league. I don't care where statistically 1 to 10. It's just clearly as potent. They're good, right? Because they can kind of do it all. They can run the ball inside and out. They have a dynamic tight end. They have multiple weapons outside. They have a good quarterback. Like they have a good offensive line. Like the Raiders are a pretty fucking complete offense.
Yeah.
Because you look at the Chiefs, they are much more predicated on passing. Where really the Raiders have one doing it all. Now you could argue the Chiefs have won games when Clyde runs, but they are dependent on a rookie running back and Le'Veon, who, let's just face it, is not Le'Veon Bell anymore. But I'm excited to watch this game.
I think if I gave you just like kind of the DNA of the Raiders, their numbers, their individual performances, kind of the scouting report without telling you who it was or what it was, you'd go, all right, yeah, defense is flawed, but this does look like a pretty complete, especially offensively. And I think Gruden said something, I guess he said it Thursday, about someone asked him about Ruggs, and he was like, I look up Cliff Branch's rookie year. How many catches did he have? And, of course, I think maybe somebody looked it up, and it was like 3, right? I am in 100% agreement with Gruden. Like, I don't even know what Ruggs has been.
Are people saying Ruggs isn't good? Like,
no, Ruggs is a game. Like, he clearly affects he has, what's the word people have been using with Steph for a few years? A word became popular. Like, he's got gravity or something. Like, just what he does, like, pulls other people are pulled towards him because they're trying to defend him. Like Ruggs has like defenses have to gravitate towards him. Like he has a gravity that affects the game.
I like Ruggs. If people don't, you're an idiot.
Pro Ruggs show.
Because as a fast guy, one thing he's shown. Now, granted, he's caught like 3 or 4 balls out of bounds, and you'd have to like probably ask Gruden like whose fault was that. For a little guy, this is where his parallel with Deshaun is true, and I think Tyreek is like this too. Fantastic ball skills.
Yeah,
catches it high, catches it with his hands,
plays bigger.
You know, sometimes with the fast guys, it's like, oh, he doesn't have good hands. But it's like if you can get open, it's okay. I think actually if you just throw it to Ruggs, he's gonna catch it. He's caught contested balls. He is a very, very talented player. If I was them, I'd be pretty confident of like, God, we've done this without him coming on yet, because for whatever reason we just haven't hit the plays.
Yeah.
Now, and again, like this
is his kind of game too.
Like watching the Monday night game, Justin Jefferson going off. He's not going to be just to have these like 10 for 100-yard games, right? His games are always probably going to be more like 6-7, 130, like when he's really good, because he's going to have 30, 40-yard plays.
Well, this is, remember he had a 72-yard play in the last game. Like this Sunday Night Football is to me a Ruggs. I don't want to say coming out party because we already believe in him, but because it's the way this game is going to get played, because that Kansas City's going to hit a couple of these.
That guy in post, he ran right by him.
I think
he was
gone.
Some
big plays this week, but that's not going out on a limb.